After months of heated MVP debate, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Nikola Jokic will be facing each other off in the second round of the Western Conference playoffs. Despite the Thunder dominating most of the league this season, they split their 4 games against the Nuggets this year. In any series with the Denver Nuggets, the biggest priority is how to stop Nikola Jokic. Against the Thunder this season, Nikola Jokic averaged a dominant 25 points, 16 rebounds, 12 assists, but his efficiency did drop to a 57% true shooting. When you discuss how the Thunder are going to defend Jokic, the biggest question is which big are they going to put on him first. When Hartenstein was matched onto Jokic, Jokic shot 16 of 25 and had 7 assists to only 1 turnover. Despite Hartenstein being a really good team defender, he's not really great one-on-one with his lack of core strength. You can look back to last year where Embiid completely moved him around pretty easily. When you look at players who can disrupt Jokic the most historically, it's players with extremely strong upper bodies like Zubac and Karl-Anthony Towns, or players with a lot of length like Mobley and Wembanyama. For Hartenstein, he doesn't really fall in any category. He doesn't really have the speed, he doesn't have the additional length, and he doesn't have the upper body strength, making his impact against Jokic minimal. You remember when I mentioned how players with length can disrupt Jokic? Well, Chet Holmgren's one of them. When matched up with Chet Holmgren this season, Nikola Jokic shot 12 of 31 and committed 7 turnovers. Chet does a few things well against Jokic. First, he has the speed and agility to make sure that he stays in front of Jokic on the ball, and then he has the length to make sure that he finishes the shot with a good contest and makes Jokic often alter his shot. Over the course of a series, there's going to be moments where Jokic completely overpowers Chet and completely wears him down, but I think that's something you have to live with. At the end of the day, the task is to not stop Jokic but find ways to prevent him, and using Chet Holmgren's length to make him uncomfortable is probably the best way you can do that. Chet's wingspan is such a weapon because even when he is beat, it gives him a chance to recover and block the shot. Even if Jokic does eventually figure Chet out over the course of a series, I find it hard to believe that he'll be completely dominant against a player with that level of length and that level of movement. Now beyond the initial defender, the biggest question when guarding Jokic is how you're going to structure your help. You physically cannot make a mistake when playing against Jokic on defense. He finds every single hole, every single lapse that you make. Now, because Jokic is such a dominant 1-1 scorer, you still need a help on defense, but you need to find ways without sacrificing good shots for the rest of the offense. Now, I say good shots because nearly every shot the Nuggets take is a pretty solid shot. Because of how good Jokic is at drawing and reading help, almost every single shot they get is off a closeout or an open jumper. The Nuggets essentially put MPJ or Jamal Murray one pass away from Jokic at all times so you can't help from that spot. Now, this usually leads to teams helping off of Christian Braun or Russell Westbrook, but the thing is that they're really good athletes and Jokic is really good at hitting them as a cutter. Now, this is the reason why the Nuggets have had such a dominant offense over the last 3 seasons. They just create quality shots nearly no matter what the defense is giving them. And this is why the Denver Nuggets pose such a unique challenge to the Oklahoma City Thunder, who have been one of the greatest defenses of all time this season. Almost every team's best player is a perimeter ball handler, which means the Thunder's defense can even make a bigger impact with all their point of attack defense, their speed, their switchability. But now that you're playing a team like Denver, who plays primarily through the post and in a 2-man game with Jokic and Murray, it poses a unique threat on how much you can actually help and how much you can actually make an impact with these defensive guards. Reading into Jamal Murray is always a tough look, but on paper, this is definitely a series that he should struggle in, and outside of the last game in the regular season, that's what he did, averaging 21 points, 4 assists, but only on 53% true shooting. Between Cason Wallace, Lou Dort, Alex Caruso, and Jalen Williams, the Thunder have more than enough perimeter guys to really put a lot of ball pressure on Jamal Murray all series. But again, Jamal Murray's game is so predicated on tough jumpers, there's only so many things you can control. Thunder fans saw this firsthand in the final matchup with the Nuggets when Jamal Murray went on a complete heater, scoring 35 points on 65% true shooting. But even with how up and down Jamal Murray's shooting can be, what remains a constant is his 2-man game of Nikola Jokic and his threat of pull-up shooting. Since Jamal Murray is such an elite pull-up shooter, usually the big has to step up, which gives Jokic an advantage off the roll. So this really brings the question on what the Thunder should do against them in a playoff series. In the regular season, they were very comfortable with letting Jokic operate at the middle of the floor and let him shoot a lot of top-of-the-key jumpers. For them, as long as Jokic did not catch the ball near the baseline or in the post, they were happy with the result. And to be fair, Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic both were held below their season average and below their season average efficiency. On the season, the Nuggets had 112 offensive rating against the Thunder, despite some up and down shooting. That's 8 points below Denver's average offensive rating, but 8 points above the Thunder's average defensive rating. So again, both teams kind of meet in the middle, where the Thunder have enough strength defensively to the point where they can slow them down, but Nikola Jokic gives the Nuggets high enough of a floor for them to not stoop down to the Thunder's season average. One more thing about the Nuggets is that they barely turned the ball over against the Thunder this year. They only averaged 13.5 turnovers, which was bottom 5 in the league. Now, I talked about Isaiah Hartenstein versus Chet Holmgren in terms of how they guard Nikola Jokic earlier, but the real question is, do the Thunder go single big or double big? There are pros and cons for both sides. For one, if you're playing double big, are you maximizing Chet's use on both ends by playing him at the roamer spot and playing him as a wing offensively? Is that the best use of his minutes that he's going to get in this series? On the other hand, if you go single big, do you trust J-Dub enough down low as a secondary rim protector and rebounder next to Chet Holmgren or Isaiah Hartenstein, especially Chet when rebounding issues can be prevalent? Thankfully, the Thunder will have 48 minutes and will likely play through all these lineups at some point in the Game 1 and Game 2 and try to see which is best for the team. For me, I would personally go double big for mainly one reason. When you play two bigs on the floor, you force Jokic to guard the pick and roll in some way. Because Chet has done so good against Jokic offensively over the past 2 seasons, the Nuggets will often elect to put Jokic on a wing like Dort and just have him away from the big. Against Denver this season, the Thunder have a 133 offensive rating when they have Hartenstein and Chet in the game, and the main reason being because they can force to play for the pick and roll. Now defensively, it's very interesting because like I said earlier, Hartenstein has not done a good job against Jokic, but Chet Holmgren has. So maybe the Thunder do elect to put Chet Holmgren on Jokic and Isaiah Hartenstein on Aaron Gordon and have him roam off a bit. This helps you do all 3 things. It helps you close possessions with the rebounding, it helps you thrive offensively, and it helps you have the best Jokic defender on him at all times. Now on the flip side, how the hell do the Denver Nuggets guard Shai Gilgeous-Alexander? They don't really have anyone who can contain a ball on him, Christian Braun being their best option in the starting 5. And while Braun has improved defensively this year, he still lacks great navigation and core strength to really guard Shai in these one-on-one situations. The Nuggets do have some better defenders, like Peyton Watson, but I'm pretty sure the Thunder would make him unplayable offensively in the series, so I don't know how much that matters. If anything, the one defender I could see spend a lot of time on Shai is Russell Westbrook on the other hand. He's going to play a lot for them because of his offensive juice, but he also brings that core strength defensively and has the agility to stay with Shai a bit on these drives. But the one thing is that Westbrook plays this over-aggressive defensive style, which I don't think is sustainable, and he'll eventually be called for a lot of fouls. So for the most part, the Nuggets lack true ball containment and they lack a true rim protector in Jokic. For this reason, this is why I think they can run really aggressive coverages at Shai some point this series. Now they've already tried to do this against the Thunder. In their last matchup against them, they ran a full half-court trap against Shai. Now, yes, the Nuggets won this game, but they allowed 127 points. I don't see any way that's sustainable. This is obvious, but the Thunder will really need the best out of Shai no matter what happens this series. As a playmaker, as a scorer, they need him to dictate the flow of the game. Shai's biggest issue in the first round was being too passive as a driver and eventually just bailing possessions too early. The good thing was that Shai stayed aggressive as an overall scorer, shooting his most field goal attempts per game in any playoff series. And Shai's biggest issue at times can be playing against aggressive rim protectors that cover a lot of space on the floor. Jokic is the opposite of that. If Shai beats the help, he will be getting a good look at the rim no matter what, and he needs to understand that down the flow of the game. But like I said earlier, if Denver does run these aggressive coverages against Shai, he will need to dictate the game as a playmaker. He will need to slow the pace down. He will need to make those advanced passes, but I do think he has shown signs, especially against Denver this year. If Shai finds his offensive flow this series, I don't know what Denver can do. They only have so much personnel, only so much space they can take away from the floor without playing Peyton Watson or Russell Westbrook full time. If you're the Thunder, your goal should almost be to make them play Christian Braun or Michael Porter Jr. off the floor, so in turn, you can limit Denver's offensive ceiling. As a whole, I'm expecting Shai to have a pretty good series. This is the first time in his career that he's playing against a defense that's pretty favorable for him. In the regular season, the Shai vs Jokic minutes were a +4 for OKC, and that's what you hope to sustain or better. I think this series has pretty big potential for Isaiah Hartenstein. Like I said earlier, playing double big means you get to play Jokic in the pick and roll, and Hartenstein's great at dissecting him in space. He's become a great safety valve for whenever Shai is being pressured, he can just get it to Ihart in the middle of the floor, and when Jokic is hard hedging so much, this will be open all series long for Hartenstein to hit the floater or to make the corner pass to a shooter. I think for this reason, the Thunder will try to match Shai and Hartenstein's minutes all series, because if you can't pressure Shai, it becomes very scary for the Denver defense. The Thunder's other 7-footer, Chet Holmgren, has had a lot of success against this team too offensively. Chet's willingness to shoot 3-pointers since he's came back from injury has made me really encouraged that he can be fine in an off-ball role as a wing in this series. But what makes me really confident about Chet is that when he switched on to smaller players like Jamal Murray or Christian Braun, he's been really confident in attacking them. The main thing with Chet is almost always going to be aggressiveness and how well he can play in space, and I think this type of series is the exact one where he can thrive. Almost all these pick and pops, almost all these plays, they're going to leave someone open, and it's being Chet in most of these plays. They're switching off of Chet, they're giving Chet open threes. This is the type of series where Chet can really make a name for himself. And none of this is even mentioning what Chet Holmgren can do to Nikola Jokic when they do not switch off of him. Playing off the pick and roll. Hezzy drive. Mid-range jumper off a closeout. I mean, he can do it all. This will be a really interesting matchup for J-Dub and how they decide to guard him. In theory, Aaron Gordon is a pretty good fit on J-Dub, but if you put him on him, then you have really no rim protection at all and you're taking Aaron Gordon away from the rim. I think the Nuggets play him like the Mavs played him last year, where they put their worst defenders on him, but then they load up defensively to make sure he doesn't get much space. So in this case, similar to last year when the Mavs were pretty confident in switching Luka and Kyrie onto J-Dub at times, I think they'll be confident in switching Murray and MPJ, just so they can have the best defenders off the ball and they can load up for a J-Dub drive. But again, what Dallas did last year is not easy to replicate. They were one of the best defenses against ball handlers all year. They shut down Harden, J-Dub, Tatum, Brown, Anthony Edwards, you name it. Their two 7-footers, and Gafford and Lively, really messed everything up, and I don't think that J-Dub series will happen again. Now, one thing I have to mention is that excluding the game that Aaron Gordon left early, he only played one full game against the Thunder this year. His secondary rim protection, the scoring he brings inside the paint, his connection with Jokic, obviously insanely valuable, clearly the third best player on the Nuggets, so it's not fair to fully evaluate them. With that being said, it's time for my series prediction. Despite the Thunder having one of the greatest defenses ever, I don't really expect this series to really have a defensive slant to it. I truly think there's a chance this can be a special series where Jokic and Shai completely dictate the game flow for both teams. With that being said, I have the MVP winning in 6 games. If you guys like this type of content, please like and subscribe. I'll be trying to make this type of content every single game. If you guys have any Thunder related questions, let me know in the comments. If you guys have any critiques on the video, let me know. I appreciate all of it. Thank you for listening.